We are live, the Athens, Ohio Environment and Sustainability Commission meeting for May. We have a quorum. I think we have almost everybody, and we have a very full agenda tonight. So we are going to skip introductions, and I don't think we've got any other guests on at this moment. I just want to take the quick moment to acknowledge that we are meeting on lands or meeting from lands that have been occupied for thousands of years by the Hopewell, Adena, Fort Ancient, and Shawnee cultures. My name is Amy Delac, and I am the chair of the commission. We've got Sarah, Andrew, Paul, Ed, Jasmine, Sam, Stefan, Austin, Megan, Scott, from the government channel on board tonight. And I think with that, we will call to order and have the disposition of the minutes from last week, or last month, excuse me. Did anybody have any changes to the minutes? All right, with that, can we get a motion to accept the minutes? Okay, that sounds like Sarah's nodding and maybe Austin is seconding. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, awesome, thanks. Okay, hopefully we don't have any major additional business to add to our fairly packed agenda. The one thing I do want to do is switch a quick federal update to the beginning of the new business because it's relevant to Sam's Power a Clean Future Ohio resolution. And with that, next meeting date. Next meeting date will be
June 2nd.
June 2nd. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No worries. So any conflicts with that anyone knows of offhand? We'll keep that as our preferred meeting time then. And then we'll move quickly right into backyard chickens. Jasmine and Megan. And Sarah, right?
Want to go? Sure, I can kick us off. So between our last meeting and this one, we were able to circulate an updated survey, and I saw a few participants. Thanks everyone for sort of simulating the experience of taking the survey as a resident and for providing some feedback. That was helpful. And I think, if you didn't get a chance to do that yet, probably in the next few days would be great. Megan and Jasmine and I are interested in posting the survey out to neighborhood associations and through, different Facebook channels. Yes, Ed?
Where's the survey? Where can I find it?
I can drop a link in the chat. And it's also in your email.
So you sent it in the email?
Yes, in the same email thread that Paul sent the agenda out and such, but it's now also in the thread. So again, our goal is to reach as many community residents as possible. So in addition to posting to neighborhood association pages, if anyone's available and willing to share it on their personal page, that may reach new people as well. We realize this is not the most scientific approach, but the more that we can share it, I think the more we can get a diversity of opinions and input from that survey. So I guess while we have everyone here, if there's any comments that we kind of want to talk about as a group, in terms of approach, the survey itself, what we do with the information, I will say, the goal will be to collect that information, try to, gauge some general input based on that information. We'll share it with the group after about a month. We agreed we'd try to keep it up, and it can stay up for some time after that. There's really no need necessarily to take it down immediately, but it seems like a good thing to try to give it a month and see how many people we can reach. So thoughts from anybody?
Okay, Sam?
Yeah, sorry, the dog was going crazy and I'm in the attic, so I had to run down. You may have already said this. If you or Megan or whoever can write up some sort of blurb for the survey that we can then forward on, that would be what I would need.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's also a method that we haven't discussed through email, obviously, if you are able to. And I know, Sam, you've got a good network there. So yeah, we'll make sure to have sort of a general description of what it is and what we're requesting of folks.
Yeah, I've had some people contact me in the past about, this issue. And so I'll definitely reach back to them. They'll be very pleased to know that the commission's working on it. And then they may have a whole group of people that they know that they can then forward it on to. So that'd be great.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And to be clear, it is okay for us to attach the commission's name to this survey, right? To say that it is coming from the Sustainability Commission.
We may want to do a quick resolution just approving that. Seems like would be the safe thing to do. So can we have someone Jasmine making a motion that the Sustainability Commission officially puts its signature on this survey as in our call out for information? So it sounds like Jasmine has moved it. Austin seconded.
I'll second, yeah.
Okay. And all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. That passes.
And were there any comments really quick on the survey itself, or is it good to go? I saw a couple things that maybe we can change, but I can talk to you about that later, Sarah. They're really minor.
I updated, Paul had given a couple of suggestions and I made those changes.
Okay, I'll check it out.
And I didn't have any more from the ones that I added last week. Oh, cool. I just want to welcome, looks like we have a guest, John Paul, welcome.
And Jeremy Bittinger
No, I don't see that one.
in the attendees.
Okay.
Hi, John Paul. Good to see you.
Hey, Sarah. Great to see you as always.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else on the backyard chickens? All right. Okay, so new business. The first thing on our official agenda is Power a Clean Future Ohio resolution. But I do just want to provide a quick update on the federal side. So you probably all have heard that Earth Day, now almost 2 weeks ago, President Biden hosted an international virtual symposium on the climate with world leaders, in which we got a lot of congratulations on being back in Paris and back in the in the forefront of mitigating climate change. But the important thing that came out of that, at least from the U.S. perspective, is that the U.S. government sent to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change what's called our nationally developed contribution, which is it's what we strive for our goal to be under the Paris Climate Agreement, and the language that our brand new Biden administration INDC states is 50% below 2005 levels of greenhouse gases by 2030. So that's fairly ambitious, and as we move now towards this resolution, my suggestion is going to be that we make our language in line with the U.S. INDC. So with that, Sam, take it away.
Okay, great. Amy, thanks for that, because that is in alignment with what the mayor's office is proposing. The initiative is a 30 by 30. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they just liked the way that sounded or what, but the mayor's office and the city really feels that 50% by 2030 is certainly doable.
Yeah.
And, we've had a little bit of back and forth within the city with Paul and with the mayor's office. The mayor was the one who originally turned to me and asked us to consider this, bringing a resolution to council. And I meant to put it on the April agenda for this commission, and I neglected to do that, and so we're a little bit behind. But when I dug into the resolution, and Paul has been part of this sort of email thread too, it really asks for more than just a sort of a city commitment. And then the other thing that came up is that our climate emergency resolution has already committed beyond 50 by 2030. So my first hesitancy was consistency and have us, not be just willy-nilly. Now, when I approached Chris Fall, who originally produced the climate emergency resolution, she was fine with us doing something different. And her point was that resolutions are not law. They are aspirational, and they're a sort of a message. And I understand that, but I still think that some consistency would be appropriate. And, I'm all for aspirational, but I'm also for reaching, our, even if they're aspirational goals, and just throwing things out there, I'm less comfortable with. But more particular, the resolution itself, and I sent this to the commission earlier today, not a lot of time for you all to probably take a look at, but the commission, the resolution officially appoints a person to serve as the city's Power Clean Future Ohio coordinator for implementation of the sort of plan. And, I did put the Environment Sustainability Commission as sort of the coordination team, but we can talk about that if everybody is okay with that. But this name of contact person who will really be the city's coordinator, I'm not sure, if that should be me, if, Paul has got a super busy plate. And so this is not something that he's really ready to take on. Again, we want to, be, very intentional about reaching these goals. So, Paul, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, thanks. I'd be happy to. I think, but Andrew Chicky is on this call. I believe Mayor Patterson's asked Andrew to help out with that. I think that was already was in motion when I was unaware at that time when I sent that email out. So I think Andrew is working on some of that on behalf of the mayor. And Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And then also just to let you know that the gentleman who's also on the Zoom, John Paul de Versa, I apologize if I get your name pronounced wrong, John Paul, but he is also involved with this project to help us with the greenhouse gas collection data and things like that. And I'll let Andrew jump in if he would like to.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we're working on with Power Clean Future Ohio. There's actually two specific projects, and the one I'm going to share with this group in more detail is broken into an additional two pieces. So on the one side, we have, we're working with PCFO on a green fleet inventory. So looking at our current inventory of vehicles of all different sizes and uses, and then working on actual recommendations for replacing one-for-one out of our fleet. So that's one project that we're working on. And the other one is an equity coaching for sustainable cities program. And equity coaching for sustainable cities is broken into two parts. The first part is 4 hours of equity coaching, basically sharing values based on inclusivity, equity, and justice related to environmental concerns, related to policy recommendations that are equitable and affordable in relation to our policies for greenhouse gas emissions and the like. And the other part of it is what we're working with John Paul on, and that is having John Paul serve as a greenhouse gas inventory consultant for the city. I know that this commission has done some of that type of work in the past, and we have done other programs going back as far as 2009. We did a study with Perfection on our efficiencies of city-owned infrastructure, and we applied some of those many of those recommendations to that city infrastructure to improve our efficiency. And we want to take kind of these bits and pieces that we've had over the years and create a more concise document. And part of John Paul's, and I haven't talked with him in depth yet. We've had some other activity happening in the city in the last 2 weeks. But one of those pieces is to take all these different things and make a concise document that we can then use on an ongoing basis to track these metrics. And that's something that that we're excited about. And if it's all right with John Paul, I'd like to turn it over to him to talk about his portion of the work with you all, and kind of share what our goal. We're going to come up with some goals, but some of the goals that we're going to work collaboratively on that John Paul can help us with.
That'd be great. John Paul, if you could tell us about yourself too. That I'm Sam.
Absolutely. Hi, Sam, and hi everyone else on the phone that I'm meeting on the Zoom call that I'm meeting for the first time today. I'm John Paul DeVersa. I'm the principal with Unpredictable City. We are the firm doing the greenhouse gas inventories for Power a Clean Future Ohio. If I look familiar to some of you, I am also the senior energy planner with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, but that's only for 2 more days. Okay. So I know I've done some work, at least in close proximity with some of you before. So I just wanted to make that clear. So with the greenhouse gas program, what we're doing is we offer a free greenhouse gas inventory. And once we develop that baseline, the tool we're using, which is the curb tool, it will also give us the opportunity to take a look at different recommendations, cost effectiveness, how they overlap with co-benefits. And we can look at different sectors that you might be specifically interested in, whether it is private buildings, municipal buildings, water and wastewater, transportation, whatever it happens to be. We can really dig into the data. I love that idea of making a concise document because I know a lot of the communities we're working with have previous documents, and some of them, like you said, extend somewhat far back, and certainly far back enough that some updating is probably in order. So that's the main part of the program. That's the one that we hope you take advantage of. If this is something that you're looking to internalize moving forward, my firm has also secured a reduced rate for Power a Clean Future Ohio members so that we can do training. If you want to bring us on for any projects as well, we're more than happy to do that also at the reduced rate. So again, that part is completely optional, and we definitely feel that focusing on the baseline and the recommendations is the place to begin.
Thanks, John. And I'll just add, in case anyone didn't see it, Paul did attach a short slideshow with an overview of that, the Unpredictables work and the kind of timelines and stuff on the inventory. So that is in your inbox somewhere.
Well, I'll just say that, having Andrew and John Paul here today, I was not aware they were going to join, and this is great. I think this has already moved us forward in a direction that I wasn't ready for. John Paul and Andrew, I feel that I should mention that I feel like I have personal energy experts, and one of them is Elaine Getz, who is I work with at the university, and then Sarah Conley-Ballou is the other. And I say personal only because I've known them both as they're good friends of mine for a very long time, and they both are very good at what they do. But so I wanted to ask Elaine and Sarah sort of if there were any issues. I know that Amy mentioned, and I think President Biden was talking about 2005 levels. And I noticed that the resolution calls for 2010 levels. Mm-hmm. And I know, Elaine, you can tell us that we've been tracking greenhouse gas emissions in Athens since maybe, what was our baseline year, 2015, 2016?
Probably 2017, I think, for the city, but it's only partial.
It's only partial, right. So I didn't know, and turning to my energy experts, if all of this causes problems, or do we just turn this whole chunk of information over to John Paul and see what he can come up with it? Looks like Amy is sharing.
This is just the basic overview graph that's from the NDC. So we peaked right about in 2005, somewhere. It actually looks, yeah, right about in here is where we peaked. So we were already at 17% below now. So yeah, the baseline, if you use 2010 as a baseline, it does change your percentages. So everything in the US NDC is timed from 2005 because that was our peak year in US emissions.
So I have a couple comments about both the resolution and about the greenhouse gas emissions calculations. The first one is are these scope 1, 2, and 3, or are they just scope 1 and 2 in our resolution? So we're committing to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 5%. But is that scope 1 and scope 2, or scope 1 and scope 2, scope 3? Because it probably will make a pretty huge difference. And so does anybody Sam, is there an answer to that one?
I'll just say that John Paul probably knows more than I do. The resolution does not specify which scopes they refer to when it refers to reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay. And then the second thing is, maybe this is for John Paul, do we expect that we can actually find all that data for 2010 to do a complete greenhouse gas inventory, or is the expectation that we will just do the best we can? Or because our commission has been working on collecting data for 4 years now, and I wouldn't say we've gotten all that far, but maybe maybe somebody external, maybe you would be able to do a better job than we can internally, maybe. But then it might just be that the data is not there. So anyway, the question for you, do you think you can get it for 2010?
So there's a few answers. We can certainly look at a 2005 baseline if that's something that you guys would like to. We will also be analyzing for scope 1, 2, and 3. And to answer your last question, it gets tricky. So, the inventory is only as good as the data that you put in. The nice thing about the CURP tool is it allows you to use national averages or regional averages when data aren't available. And so we'll include something. The level of accuracy is kind of something. The way I like to put it is it'll get you to the right general order of magnitude so that you can make policy decisions. Will it be spot on? No, of course not. But it will be good enough to help you in the right direction. And so with that caveat, I would say, yes, we will do a fully inclusive inventory. But again, it all depends on the data that's going into the model.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it would be lovely if we had help so that we could actually complete our reports for the commission. We have just partially collected data for the past several years, and it would be great to fill in those holes, to share with somebody else the data we have, and then get the rest of the data to fill in the holes, and then we can complete our own partial inventory.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a more formal inventory, a real baseline. I think I would tend to just use 2020 as our baseline, because that's where we're starting, really. That's the year we will hopefully at least have the most recent data from. That's the year from which we need to continue cutting emissions. So
that makes our resolution much more ambitious, because 2020 is a lot.
Well, the climate emergency resolution is to end citywide greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. So regardless of the baseline, that is extremely ambitious. Okay. Yeah. So I think, so my, if I did the math right, which I'm not sure that I did, if we're looking at the US INDC baseline is 50% below 2005 levels. By 2030, we're already 17% below 2005 levels, which I think means we have to reduce by about another 40% by 2030 in order to be at 50% from 2005, if I did the math right. Because like 50% is, if we're already down to like 83%, if it's decreased by 17%, then that's another like 40% smaller to get to 50%. 50 is.
I mean, it seems to me that if John Paul can give us a concept of the 2005 to 2020 trajectory, again, in an order of magnitude, nothing so detailed that we're, guessing, and we can, I hope, make an educated guess on that. But as you say, Amy, 2020 might be a good baseline year to then say, for the next decade, these measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the city are underway, and maybe our tracking can really begin then in earnest. And I wanted to add it. It's my understanding, John Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, that you'll conduct this, analysis on current data and then sort of train us up on how to continually track this information going forward. Is that right?
We absolutely can. So that's the whole teaching people how to fish kind of thing. If we want to change the world, local governments are going to be able to, or are going to need to have to be able to do this themselves. And so that's as much as I would love to do this every year for you guys. I think it's far more important that Athens is able to do it for themselves.
Yeah. And this is really what we've been waiting for, and at least I personally have been waiting for a really robust tool and a strategy that really can carry us forward.
I have sort of a silly question that I don't know if it was covered or not, but I need to know, are we talking about the whole city of Athens and its residents, or are we talking about the Athens city government when we're talking about these metrics?
We have done calculations that include, we sort of do them separately. We do the government emissions and then we do the city emissions. And so when we've talked about, I'm not sure about what John Paul is talking about, but when we've done it for emissions, we've done both the city and the residents. But that might have been a question for John Paul, not really me.
I wasn't sure who it was for either, but we will be doing the analysis for the entire community, and it will be broken out for government operations.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I had it in my mind that the climate emergency resolution applied to city government emissions, although the way it's written, it says citywide, which actually implies the entire community. And then the to be in line with the NDC, it would need to be the entire community.
I think if we really are trying.
Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I think if we really are trying to move the needle on collective greenhouse gas emissions, we ought to track full community, and we ought to, impose measures that impact the whole community. I mean, the city government is a pretty small footprint comparatively. So in my opinion, all of the above strategy is really where we need to put our energy. Literally, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're probably all in agreement with that. I was just going to say that the resolution, the climate emergency resolution, I think it sounds like we should just kind of put aside right now and not try to align with that, and kind of consider that more a general statement on our kind of priorities as a community. This one, I'm hoping, has some real teeth, and we really have some tracking and some measurable goals, et cetera, that we can really push forward. So this will support that other one, but I think it's going to be okay if we say what we need to say in this specific resolution. And my question really is the resolution calls for a certain percentage below the 2010 levels. So even if we use 2020 as a baseline, can we still say in this resolution that we are going to do 50% by 2030 below 2010 levels, or do we have to recalculate all that math and say below 2020 levels, and whatever the math that Amy was doing, try to get a hard number of 40% or whatever that is. What do people think about that?
You know, the thing that always, the quandary for me in all of these is not, because we don't know our baseline, it's very hard to set an ambitious or unambitious target. So is it possible that we go through the GHG analysis, find out where we were in 2005, where we are in 2010, where we were in 15 and now in 20, and then say the likelihood that we can reduce, you know, setting a realistic but ambitious goal. I mean, I'm all about setting goals, but we have to be able to institutionalize them and operationalize them. So is that out of the question that we participate first and get our results and then pass a resolution that says, based on this information, we feel confident that we're going to meet this goal? Is that reverse engineering in a way that the city, like that somehow doesn't work? Looking at you.
Sarah,
Go ahead, Elaine.
I think that seems fine. We do have, so I put in the chat a link to our Dropbox. I don't know if John Paul can access that too, or if Andrew can access it, or if it's only commission members who can access it. But that's our greenhouse gas emissions, our partial greenhouse gas emissions from 2000. And we actually do have 2016, 17, and 18. And, but the thing is that, and let me say that it's partial, but it does include our scope 2. It includes partial scope 1 and partial scope 3. And so, but it includes our so electricity is scope, purchase electricity is scope 2, purchase natural gas is scope 2. It includes gasoline usage for the city, so transportation, commuting, and it also includes waste. So those are some of the big categories of emissions. So I think we might be able to take that number and say that that's 80% of the emissions. Although scope 3 can also be, you know, it depends on how you define scope 3. And I mean, that can be more than 50% of your emissions. But I think we can take the numbers that we have and we can, you know, make an estimate for how much we are going to say our emissions are. Then, I mean, we have some numbers. I'm not sure, you know, as John Paul said, I'm not even sure how much more accurate we're going to get. So I think we might be able to take the numbers we have already and say, okay, this is a baseline. So anyway, that's just a thought. But if we think that John Paul is going to be able to get something a lot more accurate, and then we can reverse and calculate our emissions, that's fine with me too. Obviously, there are two approaches. One is try to get as most accurate as you can, and that may take forever and we may never get there, but it might be really accurate, or we can just try to get an estimate and move forward with that. And so I can see us going either way.
Yeah. And I'll just add, I would love to see what our 2005 emissions were, if that's possible, in order to see how our reductions, presumably reductions, compare to the national level. Like, are we ahead of the nation as a whole? I would like to think we are, but I don't know that that's true. We're just sort of, you know, if we base our numbers just on the INDC, we sort of are assuming that we have tracked with the nation to date, and that's a big assumption.
John Paul, what's the best practice in this? What have you seen other cities do?
So there's a couple things to think about. One is that chances are your previous inventories were done with IPCC4, and some of the global warming potentials have increased since that. We can do the analysis at IPCC4, although currently the standard is 5. And that just adds a more appropriate weight, mainly to methane. So one thing that I would consider doing, if you do want to, kind of depends. So the numbers in the file that were in the Dropbox, My guess is that's IPCC 4, and so it's not really comparing apples to apples to what we might be doing now. We can certainly look back. It's not that much more work. I'm happy to make this a part of it, to get an idea, and then maybe looking at both of them is the best way to kind of wrap your head around what might be most appropriate to start to work from.
But in terms of like a community passing resolution committing to a certain reduction target or goal without having that information versus having that information in hand?
I think so. This is. I have lots of thoughts, so that's why I'm trying to go through them. My first thought is the goal is net zero, right? And so where you're starting or how much you're committing to is really irrelevant when it comes down to the impact that we're trying to have in the real world. That being said, I know when it comes certainly to our elected officials, it's very important to hit our goals and to set ambitious goals, but also attainable goals. And those really should be seated in the best information you can get. So I hesitate to say that you should get the data first, but honestly, that might be the best way to go about it.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Andrew and Paul what their sense was from the mayor's office. I know that he's sort of been chomping at the bit. I don't know if this resolution officially allows us to become a member of, the Ohio 30 by 30 pledge. Andrew, is that what you were thinking?
I don't know the answer to that. I do want to back up a second and mention that our relationship with John Paul is, at least in this role, is very recent. In fact, the onboarding email we received was 2 days ago, and we are yet to have our initial conference call with him. So this is all really great information. It's excellent that we have so many people invested and experts on this panel. Because it kind of is doing some of the heavy lifting for the conversation I'm to have with John Paul, as far as the outlining some of the goals that we want to achieve, what we would like him to help the city with. So, to Sam's point of being a little surprised at John Paul being here this evening, part of that is it's all very, very recent. Within the last 48 hours that we're moving ahead with this, we were notified that we were awarded as one of the 8 cities in Ohio to go through this process, through this program. So again, it's all very new, and in the coming days, I'll probably be requesting individuals to join a small committee to kind of go through some of this and help lift it up on both the greenhouse gas portion, but also the other portion I mentioned at the beginning, which is the equity piece and determining policy that is meeting both environment and equity and affordability. So all of that kind of together, we're going to kind of marry all of these into one cohesive idea. And that's kind of the direction, what the mayor was so excited about with encouraging us to proceed with partnering with PCFO and John Paul and all of that. So I just want to back up and mention that probably don't have all the answers quite yet, just because we saw on the calendar, I talked to Paul Logue that this meeting was this week, and we're like, well, we really want to get this going as soon as possible and strike while this is at the top of everyone's mind.
Andrew, can I add to that just that in addition to the GHG analysis, there's, as you mentioned earlier, the Green Fleet Inventory, the fleet analysis through Clean Fuels Ohio. And, that's been underway for a little bit longer than this all has, maybe over a month now. And I think they're wrapping that up. They presented at council, which was really exciting. but I've been working closely with Clean Fuels on not only the City of Athens, but other green fleet analysis work, and just to make sure that the commission knows that that's going to be another really exciting piece of information and opportunity for deployment of electric vehicles for the city fleet, for other transportation service providers, and a critical part of moving the needle here. So this is all around such a great opportunity, and the city's doing the right thing to really seize it. So heartily endorsed. And because I'm already getting paid to work on a lot of this, I'm happy to be, wearing both hats as a commission member and at Rural Action. Count me in if in any way that you need.
You're already on the list, Sarah.
All right.
Like number one or two.
If I said I didn't want to do it, you'd probably still be like, sorry.
Too bad.
But I just to echo what Sarah's saying about the green fleet part, I view them as two separate things because they're two different projects on my calendar as far as things that I'm working on. But they really are highly integrated, and there's a lot of the same individuals and players involved in both. And they're both the green fleet and this piece are going to be connected, obviously. So. Thanks again for mentioning the green fleet piece. And we'll have a lot more information very soon from that. In fact, one of my charges is to put together and reinstate the green fleet committee, and it's a group that we had active for a while, and it hasn't been very active. And we kind of have to reinstate that in the coming days. So I'll probably be coming back with more requests and asks of people to serve on these different groups as we're making recommendations for city infrastructure and city fleets. And the final thing I want to mention before I kind of turn it back over is, while all of this is going on, we also have a large multi-million-dollar Eastside Solar project that I can talk more freely about because we're further down the road, and you're going to see a lot more about that in the coming days. And just to give you a very 1,000-foot view, Eastside Solar Project is essentially a grouping of solar arrays to connect to some of our most energy intensive city infrastructure that we have, specifically the wastewater treatment plant. The average monthly electric bill for the wastewater treatment plant is about $30,000.
Wow.
And it goes up, over 40,000, and I think a low month is around 28,000. Now remember, that's before we have the infrastructure connecting in from the county sewer project. So imagine all that additional stuff coming through our plant is going to become more energy intensive. So with the Eastside Solar project, our goal with that is, we're sizing it to remove as much as we can with the land that we have through these solar arrays that are, more highly efficient than they were even 5 years ago. So we're not using up as much land for the output that we're getting, but still to even knock half of that, the kilowatt hours off of the wastewater treatment plant is a huge reduction. So just keep that in mind. You're going to see more about that in the next few months as we're ramping that up and finalizing the plans. And City Council will see a power purchase agreement hopefully very soon as we would enter into that process. So just keep all of those things. We've got a lot of projects in mind.
Great.
What are the other cities that are involved in around Ohio doing this work? Not that, or what you were talking about before, the solar collector project,
I'm not sure. I don't know if John Paul knows the other cities that were awarded through this particular program.
I know a few of them. There's Lakewood, Warren, Dayton, Athens, and Yellow Springs are the ones that I'm aware of.
And I
saw Lima.
Looks like Sarah's on top of it.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat for all the PFCO communities that are taking on this pledge and participating.
Right. Well, this was fantastic, folks. Does anybody have any last questions for Jean or Andrew?
Yeah, I do. Andrew, do you have, the resolution that PFCO, supports and recommends has asks for a name of a contact person to serve as the PCFO coordinator. Do you or the mayor have is that something that you were hoping we would come up with, or is there somebody in the mayor's office that will take on that role?
I mean, my hope would be that we'd have somebody. I think at the moment I'm the coordinator on paper for all of this and kind of the point of contact. So that's kind of how it is at the moment.
Okay. And then my other question is that there was something in the chat about the 30 by 30 pledge being about land. I think there may be 30 by 30 pledges, all different pledges. This one is carbon reduction.
Yeah. So 30 by 30 is kind of a buzzword, and in its current general usage, including in one of President Biden's executive orders 14008, 30 by 30 refers to the idea of protecting 30% of U.S. lands by 2030. So it has that phrase has been bandied about as a carbon reduction goal, but the kind of current parlance is with respect to land protection.
Okay, and I'll just say finally that I'm all for getting data and then sort of moving forward, although I don't know how timely that will be. Does the commission want to support this resolution with Andrew's name being at least temporarily the PCFO coordinator, and then our target being 50% by 2030 below the 2010 levels, even though we're not sure what those are? Or does the commission say that you're not in support of this until we have more data?
I'm in favor.
Yeah, I think we can do that. So 50% from 2010 is going to be slightly more ambitious than 50% from 2005, but I think that's fine. That would put us ahead of the US NDC potential, assuming that our emissions dropped from 2005 to 2010.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to complete this draft of the resolution, share it with the commission, and present it to City Council.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
I will add one thing. Given that we don't want to put poor Andrew on every sustainability commission call from here until we're done talking about this, I can serve as a liaison if that's helpful to the commission. If not, that's okay too. But if we want to keep this as a regular agenda item that we're continuing to keep abreast of, I'm happy to do that. I don't want to be the coordinator because probably I'll have to be on commissions or committees and otherwise, but I'm happy to be the liaison if that's helpful.
I make a motion that Sarah Conley be liaison to the coordinator.
I second that.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Any
thank you.
opposed?
Sorry that took so much time.
That's all right. No, this is really, I think, a huge, important issue, and thank you guys for coming out tonight. Okay, Ohio Town and Gown, Elaine.
Oh, sorry, I forgot that I had brought that up. So Ohio Town and Gown has a conference every summer, and it's hosted by Ohio University in Athens this summer. And I just thought maybe it would make sense to have our commission do some sort of presentation, or at least be somehow involved in the Town and Gown conference. So I don't really have more than that to say. I didn't know if anybody else was interested in that as well.
Has an agenda been released, and do we know the details about that event?
It's a call for presentations right now. Let me find that link and put it in the chat.
What's the date of the summit?
July 14th.
July 14th. Okay.
14th and 15th.
Yeah.
And let me just add that Elaine and I had sort of discussed this previously. I was seriously considering putting in a presentation on the city and the university working together to do the Bee City and Bee Campus USA pollinator work. However, I was thinking it was in June, and when I went to check the dates, I have concert tickets in Pittsburgh on July 14th, and it's a concert that's been postponed for 2 years, and it may get postponed again, but I have not yet received that, and so I didn't want to commit myself and then disappear.
Yeah. And I am most likely going to be on vacation that week. We're going to Acadia in mid-July. So I don't think I could commit to presenting, but I think both the Bee City Bee Campus are cool ideas if we could get somebody to present. And also just, Elaine and I have the past 2 years done joint presentations to the OU Sustainability Planning class about the cities and the university's sustainability plans. So a short version of that presentation might also be an option.
Elaine, I would say I serve on the organizing committee for the conference itself, and we've been working on it for a while. We were actually supposed to have it last year, and we had to cancel everything, and then we were debating for the better part of this year already whether we could do it in person later in the year, et cetera, and we decided that virtual should be the right route. I think it would be wonderful, if nothing else, Elaine, considering that it's town gown, and your relationship both with Ohio University and with the Office of Sustainability, and then also as serving on this committee, you are a prime example of that town gown relationship and how you are kind of straddling both worlds and trying to work us towards that. So if there's an opportunity for to apply for something where you think that there's a good presentation to be made, by all means, I would suggest that we do it. I'd be willing to serve on it. I don't know if I have a conflict of interest or how that would look as far as from a presentation standpoint. So I'm open-minded to doing so, but if I'd prefer to see new faces involved, I guess, since I'm sending out emails and stuff on it already.
I'd be happy to help create a presentation. I have public presentation phobia, so I would prefer not to be the person presenting, but I'd be happy to prepare something. And I also do think that our carbon fee is a really interesting.
Yeah.
So,
we could reach out to Luke. That's a good point, Elaine, to see if he'd be willing to submit something. What I could say, Sam, is if you've got concert tickets, we could certainly. Mary Nally is helping with the receiving all of the calls for proposals. So I'm sure Mary would be happy if something was chosen and Sam, you were involved with it, to make sure that it's scheduled to accommodate your evening. Scheduling you for a morning session or something like that, or if it's the day after for later in the afternoon. So in case you're a little bit groggy in the morning, we can try to work with you on that.
Yeah, because I would be happy to be the presenter. Elaine and I work.
But I'll share it with Luke. That's a really good point, Elaine.
Yeah, and I realized I didn't even introduce it correctly. That the reason I thought that we should do something is because there is a section of this. One of the key themes is sustainable infrastructure, campus and community strategies for climate change and innovative infrastructure planning. So that's one of the key themes. So that's why I was thinking our commission would be
yeah. And when is the deadline for presentation proposals?
I believe it's Friday.
Oh, it's this Friday. Oh, May 15th.
Oh, no, that's next Friday.
15th.
Next
I
week.
thought it was the 7th. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got time.
It's soon. It's quite soon, but.
Can I suggest that maybe Sam, Elaine, maybe Paul, and I throw a little something together?
Sure.
And then we'll worry about throwing the actual presentation together if we're selected.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
We can work as a subcommittee.
If some of it involved bees, I don't I'm not all boned up on the bee city or bee university part. There's a lot to that. But I know about bees, and I maybe could contribute there. So I'm pretty steeped in the bee world. So
Why don't might I propose that those named can come up with an outline of what the Sustainability Commission can offer to the town gown presentation, share the group by email.
Yeah.
And then we can each sort of select if it's a topic that we have expertise in or something that we can talk about, then, either we prepare that piece of it or come to present it, because I'm willing to help, but I can't take it all on. And I would rather just kind of see what you think is a really good presentation. It's a good opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Great. All right. So yeah, we'll get together, come up with a little something, maybe try to get it circulated by this Friday so that we can react to it and review it and get it in by next Friday.
Amy, who did you say that would be? You, me, and Elaine?
And Sam.
And Sam, okay.
And Ed too, maybe.
Do you want to be on the preparation part, or maybe just be part of the presentation?
I'll do what I can. I'm kind of spread thin, but I'm interested in it.
Okay, cool. And Ed then. Awesome. That brings us then to Compost Week. That's you, Ed, I assume?
Yeah, a little while back I saw Compost Week. Maybe it's past. I don't know. But whether there's a designated, if there's a designated week or not, maybe we should make a pitch for education around composting and opportunities. There hasn't been much of that. And so I think that area of what's been happening with that is ripe for doing more for it. I mean, the benefits, there's any number of ways you can focus on it that are possible.
Looks like we're in the middle of Compost Week, right?
It's Compost Week now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we have to do it for Compost Week. Just do our own Compost Week.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe let's try to get it on our agenda for January to start thinking about next year's Compost Week and actually maybe get a little bit of an education program going. I don't know how we're going to remember that, Paul. We're counting on you.
Get it on our calendars.
Yeah.
Just real quick on that, does our city website have compost guidelines and information on it?
Pretty sure it does.
I'm pretty sure it does too. I mean, I know that's kind of static, but just so long as the city is providing resources and information, that's an important first step. And obviously from a policy standpoint, so people understand the guidelines. Yeah.
And actually maybe the city does social media, right?
Yes. Sort
maybe
of.
Even sort of, maybe the city could do just a tweet or something this week. I don't know how much time and effort goes into and preparation goes into any sort of tweet. I know sometimes my organization's social is a big deal, but if it's not a big deal, maybe.
Paul, who's in charge of social media at City of Athens?
In general terms, it would be our government channel folks, Ryan and Scott, who organize these meetings and manage things. We do have information on the website, Sarah. I just posted that in the chat.
Yeah.
I can certainly ask if Scott just said to us, send me what you want to put out, and he'll do it. So
great. Yeah,
give
maybe
Scott content and he'll push it out.
A tweet of it's Compost Week. Learn about Athens, Ohio's composting program and the link.
There you go.
And then at least we haven't missed it entirely.
Also, Scott, jumping back, can we send you the community chicken survey for you to put out through
good idea.
Community channels? We meant to ask that, and I just now thought of it. So great.
Okay, awesome. On Hocking River Conservancy, I didn't have a person associated with that. Was that just a?
That was me also.
Okay.
Well, so what got me on that again was I missed last meeting. I don't know if it was talked about last meeting or not.
I don't think we talked about it much. I could
Okay, so
back the minutes.
I guess what got me started on that again was seeing those guys bush hogging the bank, not just the grass but the bank, and the timing of that is really poor in terms of the biotic community that interacts with the riparian zones along the river. And we had this great presentation a little while back from the San Antonio regarding the San Antonio example, and I think that's seeing them do what bush hog on the bank and turning it into biotics, instead of say doing it like early March or something when there's not a lot going on there, revitalizing our energy to see if we can do something to move forward on coming up with a better model for managing the riverine area in our community.
Yeah, my recollection is that after that student presentation, they were planning to do some community-wide surveys on river use of the river, perceptions of the river, and that they were going to then, or they were going to have us take that to the Hocking Conservancy to say, look, this is how the community feels about the river and what should be done on the river. But I think that's A, is that correct? And B, has there been any updates on whether those students have been able to start that work?
And pretty quiet.
I don't recall them saying, I could be wrong, but I don't recall them saying that they would put out a survey themselves. I think that they came to the same conclusion I did, was that we need a survey. But I don't remember if they said that they would be the ones doing that.
Okay. I thought one of them was thinking about doing that for their master's project.
I think they were all first year. All the years are like starting to blend in together. I could probably reach out to someone and see if that's something that's, I can ask Lorraine. She'll know who they each were. And yeah,
that'd be great.
I'll up with her. Okay.
I'd be able to put energy into this somehow or other, because it makes me crazy.
I was out there too, Ed. I saw it happening and was just like, oh my, it was like beautiful, everything was blooming, like right as spring was really starting to pick up. And I'm like, this is like the worst time you guys can be. Like, why?
It's awful.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Jasmine, what about your study areas? Did those get spared, or are those gone as well?
I don't know. I haven't been down there, but some of them were being mowed. Yeah, it seems kind of willy-nilly. It's really hard to, like, even when I talked to them just to predict when it would happen, it was sort of just like, it didn't seem to have any sort of rhyme or reason. There was no systematic methodology of, hey, we're going to mow this now. And, so yeah.
I agree that's something we should reinvigorate ourselves on. That's an important topic, particularly for biodiversity in the city.
I guess can this be maybe a goal for us for this summer, to try to put something more solid together to get some affirmative things to happen? There's the survey, there's the discussion with them, there's what are our goals on this. I'd really like to see us get to the next step, even if they're not that big steps. Just get something to happen and build on that.
I don't see why we can't just, we're putting out this chicken survey through Google Sheets or whatever it is, the quiz that you can do on Google. And it's not a scientific survey, but you don't need an IRB, and it can go out and we can get sort of like some sort of something that
Yeah.
It tells us, what the community thinks. I just don't see why we can't, start with something. It's better than doing nothing at all or waiting for someone else to do it, right?
I would say let's check with Lorraine.
Yeah, I'm going to
if there's something already underway, and if the students don't have anything underway, then let's do our own survey.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
I'd be glad.
And maybe we. Sorry, Ed, you're breaking up a bit, so I keep thinking that you're not talking when you are. Go ahead.
I just said I'm willing to put energy in.
Okay. Awesome. And maybe we also should open up a conversation with the folks at Hocking River Conservancy to talk about our vision for the river and figure out how far apart we are from them at the start and what we might have to do in order to bring them around. So I don't know anyone there. Pardon?
Could we invite them to a future commission meeting to present on their strategies for management and, give us a baseline of their approach?
I think that's a good idea.
Done that in the past, and now that we're into surveys, I like surveys. I say we've become the. Paul's probably like, oh my God, how many surveys did I put together? But
it'd be a good first step. Other than the survey, is to invite them and let them present to us, maybe rather than tell them right off the bat, this is what we think you need to do.
Yeah.
Have them explain to us their reasoning, and then we can sort of take it from there.
Yeah. And you have sent them your thesis, right, Jasmine?
Not directly. He wasn't very. I don't think he would have really done much with it. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Jasmine, a couple of questions about your research areas. Do you know? I don't think you had any signage up, right?
No. I had just talked to him beforehand and had an agreement.
And do you know if there was any feedback from the public about, why isn't this being mowed or why isn't the brush hog out this spring?
No, I don't know. But when I was out there, I did get a lot of people stopping me, like, what are you doing out here in the hot sun, in the middle of these bushes and flowers and stuff. And so, and once I told them what I was doing, I mean, a lot of people were fully on board, like, oh, it would be so great if we could have, a lot of people mentioned trees, if we could have trees and shade here. And so, but yeah, people were really receptive once they, just anecdotally, once I talked to them and they figured out what was
So I was going to wait till a little bit later for the Bee City information announcement on the agenda, but I'm just going to say that some of the feedback that I've received from the university is that people in the city, the public, complain when certain areas aren't mowed. Really? I'm in this community, I'm a little bit.
It's a weird thing.
Somebody just think that happens.
The neighborhood groups, there was a woman complaining about someone's sunflowers. Who hates sunflowers?
Yeah.
There's always somebody, but a lot of that's education, I think.
I think there's a certain set of people who've gotten freaked out about giant hogweed, and suddenly anything that's white and umbelliferous is giant hogweed, right? And people worry about that. That's the one, right, that actually causes blisters and things.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, I just want to check.
But I think that was I saw one specific complaint that somebody thought that giant hogweed was taking over the river basin, and I don't think that's what it was.
It wasn't. I think it was poison hemlock, probably, which is also not great for people, but it looks similar. But yeah, there is a lot of that in there.
I just wanted to say I'm willing to put some energy into this. I'm not sure what I'm volunteering for here, but a survey about the river and subsequent whatever comes out of that, I'd like to see some action there.
Yeah, great.
Austin's communication skills too might be really good in getting that information out in a way that,
hold on. Remember the one precept that everybody should know about higher education is that we study what we do worst. So.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like the first action item would be to try to actually get the Hocking Conservancy person here to talk to us. And then second step, we could maybe start developing the survey simultaneous to that effort. But we wouldn't put out the survey until.
We are checking with Lorraine too, right?
Yes, and we're going to check with Lorraine
right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Jasmine.
Amy, I can reach out to Mark Holcroft
That'd be great.
at the Hawking Conservancy. I've worked with them and had a lot of communication with them. The city has been in communication with them as well as with the Army Corps. You know, this is bigger than just the Hawking Conservancy.
Yeah.
This is a federal managed program. And because we have some legitimate and serious concerns about the safety issues at White's Mill Dam. And so we've been working through some of that. It's really complicated, and I would just highly recommend if the commission really wants to move forward with anything, that we are all moving forward as if we are that nobody's being adversarial towards the Hawking River and what they do. They're following their management plan, which was created when this was built, and it's not easy to change. It's almost impossible to change without a lot of legwork and a lot of support, and so. Anybody who's going into this, we've got to make sure that we're supportive.
Yeah, almost certainly would require an environmental assessment, if not an EIS. Which
way beyond that, I believe, Amy. Yeah, we've had some of those conversations with them. It's there's no funding for that.
Right.
It's a very competitive process. Although the dam issue is also part of competitive funding, and we're competing with basically all of Appalachia and the southern states for that funding through the Huntington office. So we're at a disadvantage relative to a lot of other parts of the country with those funding for safety issues and things like that, because we're not as bad off as a lot of other regions of with their Army Corps projects. But I can reach out to Mark and see if he's willing to attend a meeting. I don't know if he will be with respect to it being a public meeting in the evenings. I know they work. He's in his office very early in the morning and they're working all day. But I can see if he's open-minded, but I'm happy to do that.
The presentation that we saw, or the documentary on the San Antonio, I mean, maybe that's a model we can look at more deeply and see how they got to where they got to on that. I mean, it's not like it's unprecedented.
Right.
Somebody's
I think so.
My argument, I think, would be, and maybe this is, I don't know if this is up for discussion right now, but I'm a little bit afraid that we might be getting ahead of ourselves with this part, because I think the best way for the city to be looking at it is saying we have a safety issue that we want to resolve with White's Mill Dam. And if we could move forward with some of that part of the funding project, then maybe we can start looking at these other parts as part of, there's going to be change to the corridor. If that dam can be removed, and again, that's owned by a private property. The White's Mill folks own that dam. They have a legal right to access it, et cetera. And so it's even more complicated. But I don't know that, I would look at it and say we need to kind of use that as the trigger to make these other things happen. We're trying to address safety first, and then we want the environmental benefits are part of that bigger project, to make sure that we're reducing risk to life. That's just my opinion.
I'm not exactly sure I see how that would be that connected to the kinds of things we're talking about.
I think he means as far as funding goes, probably. Like,
exactly.
Types of funding that would be required to do any kind of remediation on the riparian zone. We would need a lot of money, and that kind of money won't come from just an environmental effort, unfortunately. But if we can make an argument that it's also a safety issue, then maybe we can slip it in there.
Well, again, I'm going to say that it'd be worthwhile to find out the process they went through in San Antonio. I mean, how did they get to there?
Well, they have a lot. They're Texas. They have more money than we do. But they did it, and it took 20 years. But they did do it. So
and Miami of Ohio, Oxford did it too, right?
I think that in the presentation that they did.
And I think Sacramento has as well.
Yeah, Sacramento has.
I mean, I'm all for, the San Antonio project to me seems like $1 billion. I mean, that was huge. It goes through big parts of urban areas. We don't have that. We're not talking about the same thing here, but anyway.
Yeah, we're just asking like, hey, can you wait to mow until
right
October at the very least? Like, this is
scheduling. Step one. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Small things like that can go a long way.
Right. Okay.
Oh, great.
I want to move on.
Yeah, I think actually the last thing, and thank you all for staying. We are well past time, but we just had so much great stuff to talk about. I didn't feel like I could hurry up the conversation. I think Bee City USA is the last thing on our agenda tonight.
Okay, so I'll just let everybody know that we have successfully secured the designation for the city of Athens and for the campus. We've already had conversations with key stakeholders at the university about where we can enhance pollinator habitat. And just to connect to the last conversation, this is where some of those stakeholders have said to me, people complain if we don't mow the grass, and that may very well be. But those stakeholders are also encouraged by this, and they want to find places that's a win-win. They can not spend the money, obviously the labor, to be mowing these areas, twice a week, or every other week. And then we can also have these very nice pollinator habitats. One of the areas this is very preliminary, but it was just mentioned, is the area next to the bikeway, next to the river, between Larry's Doghouse and the river, which is that very large field, which is not used by any sports teams. It's not used for the Marching 110. I don't think I've ever seen anybody out there doing anything, but the university mows it, and it's a big space. And there's no way, Susan Calhoun and I have been talking, it would be very expensive, obviously, to put in a proper pollinator garden in that entire space. But whatever is able to be used there, signage is going to be key, just to keep those people who don't like to see grass over 10 inches from misunderstanding what its purpose is. And the pollinator gardens I've seen are beautiful, like Jasmine, sunflower. Who wants to cut down a sunflower or whatever? Anyway, the university is already looking at that. We have not had a discussion yet with the city. Although one thing that Andrew did not mention was that the plan for the Eastside Solar project is to plant pollinator-friendly plants all around those panels. In order to get the number of panels that they would like, there are a number of different sites. So there are 5, I think, Paul, maybe 4 or 5 different specific spots where ground-mounted solar will be placed, and the plan is to have them surrounded by pollinators. So, part of our task, or part of our of the pollinator, the Bee City program, is to enhance our pollinator space, obviously. So we do have a couple of ideas already in the works. You all may know that we had been planning in early 2020 to install a pollinator garden at Arts West. Interestingly enough, it's right where the car plowed through just this past week. So it probably would have done some heavy damage had we actually been able to install that pollinator garden. But that, I think, is still a real possibility. That space next to Arts West, we've already jumped through all the hoops to sort of have that permitted, and Emily Beveridge was on working on it with us. So that may be a project coming up too. That's all my announcement is that's done, and now we just got work to do. Sarah, did you say something?
I wanted to tack on real quick to the solar site, Eastside Solar project. There's an opportunity through NYSERDA, the New York State Environmental Regulatory Agency, that's studying solar pollinator habitats, specifically with bee habitat attached. So I just requested more information about it today, because it's like a call for projects that are either publicly or privately cited, who want to do this agrovoltaic model where you kind of combine, soil regenerative plants, pollinating habitat. And so I think it's a little early to say that this might be a possible fit for that. But if at one or more of the sites that the solar is installed where they will need to do some fencing for the safety of the community. If it's possible to put a super or two in there, Ed, to keep bees, that may well be an incredible synergy, meeting our East City USA goals, pollinator habitat goals, solar goals, and participating in a multi-state study around this.
I just caught 5 swarms. I can devote one to that.
What's the size going to be of the East Side array?
So
the total size, megawatt, kilowatt, whatever it is.
The last I heard was 2.2 megawatts.
Okay.
Now, I am probably, like most of us, waiting to see how 2.2 megawatts is going to fit in that site. But it's apparently possible. And again, it's these high efficiency panels. You can panel.
That's
more
10 times the megawattage of the wattage, I guess, of the carport ones at the community center parking lot.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll
225, but it's probably not 10 times the area.
It'll triple our total capacity as a city. Because
it's a big land use, no doubt.
Yeah, it's a huge project.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I noticed.
Sorry, guys. Looking at the clock, I'm gonna hop off.
Yeah, I think we better adjourn. Ed, did you want to say one last thing?
Yeah, just on Schaefer Street where they mowed the cemetery over there. They left the slope going down to the street, the steep slope, unmowed, and I was gratified to see that. I don't know if that was intentional to do that, but it was done, and I probably should have let somebody know about that. I think it's cool. Maybe possibly reinforce that.
Let somebody know, Ed, because
let somebody know.
Somebody's going to send an email to say, "Why didn't you mow it?"
I'll let Jessica know.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Last comments, questions, things to think about next month? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded? All right. Sam, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye.
All right. Great meeting, guys. I think we got a lot to accomplish and do and try to get done in the next few months. Awesome.